Welcome, dear seeker. Today, I invite you into a serene space, a space where we slow down, breathe, and look gently at one of the greatest challenges of the modern mind, overthinking. If you have ever felt trapped inside your head, if your thoughts spiral, loop, and replay endlessly, if you find yourself worrying about things that haven't happened or reliving moments that are long gone, know that you are not alone. And more importantly, know that there is a way out, a way not of force, but of understanding. The philosopher Alan Watts, known for effortlessly blending Eastern wisdom with Western insight, offered a profoundly simple formula for dissolving overthinking. His teachings remind us that the mind is not a machine we must fight with, nor a wild animal to tame. It is more like water, fluid, reactive, beautiful, and often restless. And like water, the harder we try to control it, the more chaotic it becomes. Watts famously said, "You cannot force the mind to be quiet any more than you can smooth water with your hand." This single insight forms the heart of our exploration today. In this video, we will not pity the overthinking mind, nor will we shame it. Instead, we will learn how to understand it, befriend it, and liberate it. Together, we will explore 6 powerful sections inspired by Watts' teachings, each one gently illuminating a different doorway out of mental noise and into clarity, presence, and trust. Let this be a moment of real pause in your day, a moment to reconnect with the wisdom already living within you. So take a deep breath, dear friend. You're exactly where you need to be. Let us begin. Before we learn how to quiet the mind, we must first understand why it becomes so restless. Alan Watts often reminded us that the mind is not malfunctioning when it overthinks, it is simply doing what it was designed to do. The mind's primary purpose is to predict, analyze, and protect. In ancient times, this was essential for survival. Our ancestors needed to anticipate danger, notice patterns, and plan ahead. But in the modern world, this survival mechanism has become overactive. Watts describes this beautifully in The Wisdom of Insecurity, explaining that the mind creates a sense of a separate self, an isolated me that must constantly guard itself from an unpredictable world. And once this idea of separation is created, fear naturally follows. Fear of making mistakes, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty, fear of not being enough. Fear is the fuel that feeds overthinking. This is why your thoughts sometimes feel like a runaway train. Your mind is trying to keep you safe. But here is the paradox. The more the mind tries to protect you through thinking, the more overwhelmed you feel. Watts compares this to a person who has an itch and keeps scratching it. For a moment, the scratching brings relief, but soon the itch grows worse. Overthinking works the same way. We think to feel better, but thinking actually magnifies the discomfort. Understanding this removes blame. You're not too emotional. You're not too sensitive. You are not broken. You are simply carrying a mind that's been taught to worry, to plan obsessively, to imagine every worst-case scenario. The good news is this. Once you understand why the mind overthinks, you can learn to guide it gently instead of fighting it. And that is where our journey continues. Dear seeker, once we understand why the mind overthinks, Alan Watts invites us to consider an even deeper truth. You cannot stop overthinking by force. In fact, trying to control your thoughts often makes them louder, stronger, and more persistent. Watts explained this through one of his most famous metaphors. Trying to calm your mind by force is like trying to smooth water with your hands. The more you try, the more ripples you create. Have you ever told yourself, "Stop thinking about this," only to end up thinking about it even more? This is not failure. It is simply the nature of the mind. When you resist a thought, you feed it energy. When you fear a thought, you attach emotional weight to it. And when you try to eliminate a thought, you turn it into something significant. This is why many people feel exhausted, not from thinking itself, but from arguing with their thoughts. Alan Watts often compared the mind to a mischievous monkey. If you try to discipline it harshly, it becomes even more restless. But if you simply observe it without judgment, it naturally begins to settle. This is the essence of Watts' teaching. Your mind is not meant to be controlled, it is meant to be noticed. Control creates resistance. Resistance creates tension. Tension creates more overthinking. The moment you release the desire to force quietness, something subtle begins to shift. Thoughts still appear, but they lose their heaviness. The mental chatter becomes background noise instead of a storm. Watts reminds us that peace comes not by domination, but by cooperation. By allowing the mind to behave like the sky allows the clouds to pass. When we stop fighting our thoughts, they finally have room to fade on their own. Dear seeker, now that we understand the futility of forcing the mind, Alan Watts guides us toward a powerful yet gentle truth. Overthinking can only survive when you leave the present moment. The mind spins because it wanders into the past or races into the future, imagining, predicting, replaying, fearing. But when you return to the now, overthinking loses its fuel. Watts often said that the present moment is not something you must create. It is something you fall back into when you stop trying to mentally control life. In the way of Zen, he explains that reality itself is always simple, immediate, and vivid. It's our thoughts that complicate it. Consider this. When you are fully present, when you truly feel your breath, or hear the subtle sounds around you, or sense your feet on the ground, does the mind have space to spin its stories? Not really. Presence is the mind's natural reset. Watts emphasizes that returning to the present is not a strict discipline. It's not about doing mindfulness correctly. It's more like gently remembering what you have always known, that life is here, happening right now, beneath your thoughts. You can reconnect with the present moment by noticing the temperature of the air on your skin, feeling the natural rhythm of your breathing, listening to distant sounds without labeling them, becoming aware of your hands resting in space, simply observing what is happening inside you. In these small acts of awareness, something remarkable occurs. The mind softens, the body relaxes, and the overthinking begins to dissolve, not by force, but by the sheer power of presence. Watts beautifully said, "We are only anxious when we live for the future instead of the present. When you return to now, peace returns to you." Dear seeker, as we move deeper into Alan Watts' wisdom, we arrive at one of his most transformative teachings, the power of surrender. In our culture, surrender sounds like giving up, like losing, like weakness. But in the language of Watts, surrender is something entirely different. It is the art of allowing life to be what it is, instead of exhausting ourselves by fighting what we cannot control. Overthinking is almost always a battle between what is and what we wish things were. We replay conversations wishing they had gone differently. We analyze choices wishing we could guarantee the future. We resist uncertainty wishing life came with instructions. Surrender acknowledges a simple, profound truth. Life unfolds on its own timeline. Watts explains that trying to control every detail of existence is like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. But when you open your hand, the water settles effortlessly. The same is true for the mind. When you surrender, you stop trying to force answers. You stop resisting uncertainty. You stop demanding perfection. You stop tightening around life. And something miraculous happens. Clarity returns on its own. Watts describes surrender as floating in the river of life rather than swimming against the current. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop struggling. You start trusting that life has its own rhythm, its own intelligence, its own unfolding. In surrender, the mind no longer needs to constantly anticipate and predict. Overthinking loses its grip because the internal pressure disappears. Surrender is not passivity. It is partnership with life. It is courage. It is wisdom. It is the moment you stop fighting the storm and discover you can let the wind carry you. Dear Seeker, Alan Watts often said that the root of our suffering is the belief that we are separate from life, that we are tiny, fragile individuals struggling against a vast, unpredictable universe. But in truth, Watts reminds us that you are not a separate being trying to survive the world. You are an expression of the world itself. Just as waves belong to the ocean, you belong to life. Overthinking arises when we feel we must control everything. Outcomes, timing, people, emotions, even the future. We think if we don't grip tightly enough, life will slip out of our hands. But Watts challenges this illusion gently. You are something the whole universe is doing. When you understand this, trust becomes natural. Trust does not mean everything will be perfect. Trust means you no longer assume you must carry the universe alone. Look at nature. What says? Birds don't overthink their flight. Trees don't strategize their growth. Rivers don't fear their direction. Why? Because they trust the intelligence of life itself. You, too, are part of that same intelligence. When you begin to trust life, decisions become lighter. You stop second-guessing yourself. The mind releases its grip. Anxiety softens. Overthinking loses its purpose. Because trust gives the mind permission to rest. What's often described trust as falling backwards into life, knowing it will catch you. When you release the illusion of control, you make space for something more powerful than overthinking, clarity, intuition, and natural wisdom. Trust is not passive. It is not naive. It is not blind faith. Trust is remembering that life has moved you through every moment so far, and it will continue doing so. When you trust the flow, you move from fear to harmony. Dear Seeker, now that we've explored the philosophy behind Alan Watts' wisdom, let us bring it into something you can practice, something simple, gentle, and effective. Watts believed that transformation doesn't come from force or discipline, but from seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, behavior naturally shifts. Here is a method inspired by Watts' teachings, a method you can use anytime the mind begins to spiral. Sparkle Step 1. Notice the mind without judgment. The moment you feel your thoughts racing, pause and gently acknowledge. Thinking. This simple recognition creates space. It separates you from the mental noise. You become the observer, not the prisoner. Sparkle Step 2. Return to the body. Watts often said the body is the doorway back to presence. Feel your breath. Notice your hands. Sense your feet touching the ground. The body anchors you to the now, the only place overthinking cannot survive. Sparkle Step 3. Let the thought exist. Do not resist it. Do not fight it. Do not push it away. Let the thought drift through your mind like a cloud drifting through the sky. What you allow cannot control you. Sparkle Step 4. Ask gently. Is this thought useful right now? If the answer is yes, follow it calmly. If the answer is no, allow it to float away. Watts believed this question is a gentle teacher. It helps the mind relearn what deserves attention. Sparkle Step 5. Surrender and trust. Softly remind yourself, life will unfold even without my worry. This dissolves the illusion that your anxiety is necessary. Sparkle Step 6. Return to the present moment. Feel, breathe, be here. The mind settles not by force, but by returning home. Practiced often, this method rewires your relationship with your thoughts. Overthinking fades not by suppression, but by understanding. Not by control, but by presence. Not by effort, but by ease. Dear Seeker, thank you for walking with me through this journey into the heart of Alan Watts' wisdom. As we arrive at the end of this exploration, I invite you to pause once again, take a slow breath, and feel the spaciousness that now lies between you and your thoughts. Watts often reminded us of a gentle truth. Peace is not something we must chase, It is something we uncover when we stop running. Overthinking does not mean you are flawed or weak. It means your mind has been trying too hard, caring too deeply, and carrying too much for too long. And today, you have learned that you don't need to fight with your thoughts or dominate your mind. You simply need to understand it. Together, we explored why the mind overthinks, how control intensifies the noise, how presence dissolves it, how surrender softens it, how trust transforms it, and how a simple method can guide you back home to yourself. Let these teachings remind you, you are not the storm of your thoughts. You are the sky that holds it all. Whenever the mind becomes loud, remember the wisdom of Alan Watts. You are an aperture through which the universe looks at itself. You are not alone. You are not separate. You are part of something vast, intelligent, and beautifully interconnected. And life has carried you this far, it will carry you through everything ahead. If this video offered peace, clarity, or comfort to your heart, I invite you to subscribe, like, or share it with someone who may need the same gentle reminder. Until our paths cross again, dear friend, move softly, trust the flow, return often to the present, and remember, your mind is a companion, not a cage. May peace walk with you, always. So breathe deeply, relax your shoulders, smile gently, and remember, you don't have to control life. You only have to participate in it. If this video supported your journey, dear friend, I would be honored if you subscribe, like, and share it with someone who may need it. Until we meet again, walk gently, stay present, and trust the flow of life.